Today's story is one of those you won't forget. It's about a poor 12-year-old black girl from the rough streets of Detroit who saved a man nobody else dared to help. But what that man whispered to her years later changed everything. This is a story of courage, truth, and a twist that will leave you speechless. Subscribe to my channel, leave a like, and comment below. For every new subscriber, I'll donate $1 to a charity that helps kids like the girl in this story. Let's get into it. Keisha didn't ask for the life she was born into. She didn't choose the broken streets, the gunshots at night, the screaming neighbors, or the father who disappeared behind bars before she could even write his name. But somehow, in the middle of all that, she chose kindness. She was 12, skinny, smart, and quieter than most. Her mama worked two jobs, night shift at a hospital and morning hours cleaning offices. Her older brother, Jamal, was already slipping away into the world of corner deals and fast money. But Keisha, she found peace in library books. Every Tuesday, after school, she'd walk 5 blocks to the public library and stay until closing. It was her little escape, her own quiet universe where no one shouted, no one hit, and no one ever asked her for anything. That Tuesday wasn't supposed to be any different. She was walking home just past 8 p.m., clutching a used biology book to her chest, the street lights flickering above her. Her shoes had holes, and the chill in the early autumn wind slipped right through her thin jacket. As she passed behind an old supermarket, she heard a strange sound, a groan, low, strained, like someone trying not to cry. Curious, she slowed down and looked toward the alley where the dumpsters stood. That's when she saw him. A white man, probably in his 50s, slumped against a wall, wearing a suit way too expensive for this part of town. Blood ran down the side of his head. One shoe was missing. His hands were shaking. Keisha froze. For a moment she thought he was drunk, or maybe dangerous. People in her neighborhood didn't go near strange white men in alleys, especially not ones who looked like they belonged in a courtroom or a bank. She glanced around. Cars passed by without stopping. Two teenagers walked by, laughed, and kept going. The man looked up at her with glassy eyes. "Help, please." His voice cracked. He could barely lift his arm. Keisha didn't move for a few seconds. Then something, maybe the way he looked at her, like he wasn't just hurt, but scared, made her step forward. She dropped to her knees beside him. "What happened to you?" He couldn't answer. His lips were trembling, and he was losing blood. She noticed deep cuts on his hand and a bruise forming on his jaw. She ran to the corner store down the block, used the last of her allowance to buy a bottle of water and a small first aid kit from the dusty bottom shelf. The clerk didn't ask questions. Back at the alley, she cleaned his wounds with shaking hands. He winced, but didn't stop her. "You need to get up. You can't stay here." He tried to stand, collapsed. Keisha looked around again. She knew an old abandoned house just a street over. The back door was open. The neighborhood kids sometimes dared each other to go in. It took her 20 minutes to help him walk the distance, step by step, half carrying, half dragging. He never said his name. He never asked hers. She made a bed for him, out of old sheets and trash bags in the basement. It smelled like mold and broken memories, but at least it was safe. At least no one would find him there. She gave him the rest of the water, and stayed with him until midnight, curled up in a corner, reading from her biology book by flashlight. Before falling asleep, she asked softly, "Are you gonna be okay?" He turned his head toward her. His voice was barely more than a whisper. "You're the only one who stopped. Not even the police." She didn't reply, just pulled her jacket tighter and stayed awake, in case he needed her again. And that was how it began. Not with money, not with fame, but with a girl who had nothing, giving everything she could to a man she didn't even know. Days passed in the dark basement, broken only by the faint sounds of sirens in the distance, and the occasional creak of the old house settling in the cold wind. Michael remained unconscious for long stretches. Keisha stayed close, her small frame stretched out beside him on the cold concrete floor, her eyes never leaving his pale face. When he finally woke, his eyes fluttered open slowly, confused and weak. His voice was barely audible when he spoke. "My name is Michael." Keisha nodded, clutching his hand tightly. "Why are you here?" "Enough." Michael's lips moved but no sound came. He tried again. "They kidnapped me." Keisha's heart skipped a beat. "Kidnapped?" Michael's gaze grew distant, haunted. "They wanted money. My family. They thought they could get a ransom." He coughed, spitting up a little blood. "I escaped. Barely made it to the city." Keisha's mind raced. Who could want to hurt this man? What kind of family was he from? She wanted to ask more, but knew better than to overwhelm him. He had no phone, no wallet, no ID. She found some old clothes in the abandoned house, cleaned him up as best as she could. Each day she snuck out to get food. Simple things from the corner store, a sandwich, some fruit, even a can of soda when she could afford it. Keisha never told anyone about Michael. Not her mother, not Jamal. No one knew what she was doing in that cold, empty basement. Michael was weak, but slowly he regained strength. Still, he looked tired, like someone carrying a heavy burden too big for his shoulders. One evening, after she brought him a small bowl of soup, Michael took her hand in his voice trembling. "You have to disappear." Keisha's eyes widened. "Why?" Michael looked away, struggling to find the words. "If they find you, it won't be safe. For you or your family." She shook her head, scared, but stubborn. "I'm not leaving you here." Michael smiled faintly, almost sadly. "Maybe I'll die." Keisha's heart broke. "But if I survive, I promise you." He squeezed her hand harder. "I will find you." Keisha swallowed her tears. She didn't know what to believe, if he would really get better, if anyone would come looking for him, or if this was just another nightmare she had to face alone. Yet in that moment, something inside her clenched tight, a mix of hope, fear, and a strange new courage. She had saved this man when no one else would. Now, all she could do was wait and hope he could keep his promise. Days turned into weeks, and Michael grew stronger. One late afternoon, as the weak sunlight filtered through the cracked basement window, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn wristwatch. It was silver with a delicate engraving on the back. Keisha looked at it curiously. "This was my daughter's." Michael's voice was soft, heavy with sorrow. "She died 5 years ago. I carry this to remember her." He placed the watch carefully into Keisha's small hands. "Keep it safe. It's more than just a watch, it's a promise. A memory." Keisha's fingers traced the engraving, a tiny heart with initials that she couldn't read. Her chest tightened. This man, so mysterious and broken, was entrusting her with something precious. That night, the quiet basement felt colder. Michael rested while Keisha stayed awake, clutching the watch as if it was a lifeline. But fate had other plans. One morning, as Keisha returned from the store with food for Michael, she found the front door of the abandoned house wide open. Footsteps echoed nearby. Shouts. She froze. The police had been looking for her. Her brother Jamal had told them she stole from the corner store. A lie born from anger and fear. The truth didn't matter. Panicked, Keisha fled into the night, the watch hidden deep inside her jacket pocket. She ran through the alleys and streets she knew like the back of her hand, heart pounding as sirens wailed behind her. For days, she moved from place to place, never staying long, afraid to be caught. She missed Michael, but knew she couldn't go back. Then one evening, as she huddled in a corner of a bus station, the television screen caught her eye. The local news was on. There he was, Michael, alive, walking out of a hospital, looking clean and healthy. Reporters surrounded him, cameras flashing. Keisha's breath caught, he was giving an interview. The man who had trusted her, the man she saved, but when the reporter asked about the attack, about who helped him survive, Michael's eyes avoided the question. There was no mention of the girl, no word about a little hand that held his own when he was weak and scared. Keisha's fingers tightened around the watch. The promise it held felt heavier than ever. She wanted to scream, to tell the world the truth, but she had nowhere to turn. And so, the secret stayed with her, buried deep in the silence between hope and heartbreak. 10 years had passed since that fateful night in the basement. Keisha had grown into a young woman, her spirit weathered by life's hardships, but still burning quietly with hope. She worked as a janitor in the very hospital she once dreamed of entering as a doctor. The irony was not lost on her. Every day she cleaned the sterile halls and patient rooms, keeping her head down, avoiding questions about her past. She lived modestly in a small apartment in the city's outskirts, far from the neighborhood she once called home. But through all the struggles, one thing remained constant: the silver watch Michael had given her, worn on a simple chain around her neck. It was her talisman, her secret reminder of a promise made in the darkest hours. One cold autumn evening, the hospital buzzed with an unusual energy. An ambulance had just arrived, carrying an elderly man, a millionaire by the looks of him, dressed in an expensive suit, though pale and frail. Nurses hurried past, whispers filling the air. Keisha was cleaning near the emergency entrance when a nurse approached her hurriedly. "They just brought in Michael Stanton. You might want to know, he's critical, but he asked for you." Keisha froze. Her heart hammered in disbelief. Michael? She wasn't sure she believed it until she saw him herself. In the dim light of the hospital room, Michael lay weak but alert. His eyes searched the crowd until they locked onto hers. For a moment, time stood still. He reached out a trembling hand, barely whispering words that shattered everything Keisha thought she knew. "You are my daughter. I have been searching for you my whole life." Keisha's breath caught, tears welled up, blurring her vision. The watch around her neck suddenly felt unbearably heavy, and yet full of meaning. She stared at Michael, questions flooding her mind. "Why didn't you tell me before? Why didn't you come sooner?" Michael's voice was soft but filled with years of regret. "I had to find you without putting you in danger. The past was complicated, but now I'm here." Keisha reached out, taking his hand. For the first time in a decade, she allowed herself to hope. The promise was coming true. Michael's frail voice carried the weight of decades as he began to reveal the truth that had haunted him all these years. Keisha listened closely, her heart pounding with a mixture of shock and sorrow. "There was someone else before you," he said slowly. "A woman I loved, a nurse. She was black, like you. We had a brief life together, but my family never accepted her. They forced her to disappear. She was pregnant when she vanished." Michael's eyes darkened with pain. "I searched for you both for years. I was told to stop, told you were gone. I never believed it." Keisha's hands trembled, clutching the watch hanging from her neck. The story explained so much, yet left so many wounds open. News of Michael's confession spread quickly. The once respected businessman's family erupted in anger. They accused Keisha of manipulation, of being a fraud trying to steal a fortune that wasn't hers. The media descended like vultures, twisting the story into a scandal. Headlines screamed accusations, questioning Keisha's past, her character, even her very identity. "You are nothing but a convenient lie, one of Michael's delusions," the tabloids claimed. Keisha faced threats, anonymous calls, and hostile stares whenever she stepped outside her modest apartment. The people who once ignored her now whispered behind her back, convinced she was an opportunist. Meanwhile, Michael's family filed a lawsuit, demanding the money be returned and Keisha removed from any claim to the estate. Courtrooms filled with lawyers, cameras, and reporters as the battle escalated. Despite everything, Michael stood firm. "I won't let them erase her. She is my daughter, and she will have what's rightfully hers." Keisha felt overwhelmed, but also strangely empowered. For the first time, her life was more than just survival. It was a fight for justice, for truth, and for the family she never had. The courtroom was packed, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Michael's family had launched a desperate final move. They were petitioning the court to declare him mentally incompetent, hoping to strip Keisha of any claim to his fortune. Keisha sat quietly, her hands clenched in her lap. The pressure was immense. The judge's gaze swept the room, pausing on the young woman whose life had been turned upside down by secrets and lies. The choice was clear: walk away and lose everything, or fight for the truth and risk everything. Keisha rose, her voice steady but filled with conviction. "I did not come here for money or revenge," she began. "I came here for justice, for the truth my father and I have been searching for all these years." She reached inside her jacket and pulled out the silver watch. The courtroom murmured, curious about the simple piece of jewelry. "This watch is more than just a keepsake," she explained. "It carries the proof of who I am." From a hidden compartment, she revealed a small chip embedded inside, a DNA sensor Michael had installed years ago as a safeguard, a way to protect his daughter's identity. The court ordered immediate testing. Hours later, the results confirmed what Keisha already knew deep down: she was Michael's biological daughter. The DNA matched perfectly. The judge's gavel struck the bench with finality. Keisha Stanton is the rightful heir to Michael Stanton's estate. Any claims to the contrary are dismissed. Relief washed over her like a tidal wave. Tears streamed down her face as Michael reached out from his hospital bed, squeezing her hand. For the first time, she felt seen, recognized, no longer invisible to the world or to the family who once tried to erase her. Michael's family sat in stunned silence, their attempts to suppress the truth utterly shattered. Keisha had fought for her place, and she had won. Michael's condition worsened over the following weeks. Despite the doctor's efforts, it became clear that his time was running out. Keisha stayed by his side, holding his frail hand, listening as he whispered words meant only for her. Before he slipped away, Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope, handing it to her with a trembling smile. Inside, there were papers, legal documents establishing a foundation, not just an inheritance. A foundation dedicated to helping children like Keisha, those who had been forgotten, overlooked, or abandoned. He said softly that this was his true legacy. Not the millions in the bank, but the hope and opportunity for the next generation. When Michael passed away, the news spread quickly, but Keisha was no longer just a name on a tabloid page. She was now the face of a movement, a symbol of resilience and redemption. With the foundation's resources, Keisha founded a school named after her mother, a place where children from troubled neighborhoods could receive education, healthcare, and support. It was a sanctuary, a second chance. At the same time, Keisha pursued her own dream. She enrolled in medical school, determined to become the doctor she had once only dared to imagine being. Every step forward was a tribute to the struggles she and her family had endured. One evening, during an interview about her work and journey, the reporter asked her what had touched her most deeply throughout her life. Keisha paused, looking down at the silver watch around her neck, her eyes reflecting both pain and gratitude. "It wasn't that I was his daughter," she said quietly. "It was that on the night he was hurt and vulnerable, he didn't complain about being robbed. He only regretted that he didn't hold me in his arms right away." That moment, she explained, had changed everything. From that moment on, she knew that even in the darkest times, love and hope could be found.